What is up, YouTube? It is Onion Bomb here. Welcome back to another Honkaiimpact third reaction video. Today we are back with the lore chronological order playlist here, looking at some more lore videos. Just a little peek ahead. It looks like we got some more Homu Labs Potato Almanac videos like that about the Elysian Realm stuff. The first one here is a complete guide to Elysian Realm War full story recap. I'm definitely excited to learn more about this. If you missed any of, the plays, we're like 90 videos in this playlist. This is part like 13 or 14. I don't know. I not kind of sort of keeping track, but not really. We're just watching Honkai lore stuff. I'm learning more about it. Let's get started here.
Defeat of the Legion Herrscher. After the defeat of the Legion Herrscher, Mei is deemed qualified by Kevin to seek the answers regarding the true nature of the Honkai. As Mei walks down into a corridor shrouded in darkness, someone was already waiting for her. It was Elysia, number 2 of the Flame Chasers, a group of 13 Mantis soldiers from the previous era that was formed after the tragedy of Binding. Elysia tells Mei that the Elysian Realm is a simulated space created from the converged consciousness of the 13 Flame Chasers, a virtual library left behind by the last heroes of a long-gone civilization to pass their legacy to a new generation. As Mei advances through the realm, she encounters familiar faces like Kevin and Hua, and new ones such as the calm and collected Sakura, the hot-blooded Kalpas, the dignified Eden, and the man who never opens his eyes, Su. But among all of them, the one that attracted Mei's curiosity the most was the mysterious green-haired scientist,
Big Mobius time last time.
Regarded as a dangerous individual by many of the Flame Chasers, Mei is advised not to approach her. But caution wasn't Mei's style. I mean, we are talking about the girl that beat her girlfriend half to death in order to save her. Mei asks Elysia to bring her to meet Mobius. Elysia agrees, but not before testing Mei to see if she can handle the green-haired scientist. The two of them have a short fight, and after everything is done, Elysia opens up the path ahead for Mei. Here, Mei meets Mobius for the first time without realizing that she was already part of an elaborated scheme put in motion by the green-haired girl.
Chapter 2.
A while after her first meeting with Mobius, Mei notices some strange anomalies in the realm. Amidst all the confusion, a voice she had never heard before guided Mei to safety. After returning, she meets Klein, a Nia left from the previous era, and Dr. Mobius' assistant who is tasked with the maintenance of the Elysian Realm. After an altercation with Raven, it is revealed that the Elysian Realm may hold many dark secrets for the successors that choose to undertake the final bounty. Learning about Raven's past experiences, Mei grew even more suspicious that Mobius is planning something. As such, the Herrscher decides to investigate her past. She learns about her immortality, about how she created Klein after the image of her previous assistant, who became one of the 10th Herrscher's puppets. She finds out about the active Honkai reaction, a form that every Mantis has access to that will transform them into a Honkai beast and grant them tremendous power in exchange for their sanity, the truth about how Mobius killed Klein during the attack of the 10th Herrscher in a frenzied moment when she was not conscious, and she also learns about her mysterious research on the 8th Herrscher. With all the acquired information, Mei decides to confront Mobius directly. She learns about the terrible plot designed by Mobius to lure Mei here and transfer her consciousness into the Herrscher's body to leave the Elysian Realm. After a grueling fight, Mobius is confronted by Klein. The ELF gives her a recording passed down by the real Mobius, from which we learn that she decided to end her life in the final moments of the previous era. As she talks more about her state of mind, the sim Mobius furiously strikes the recorded image of the real Mobius and reveals that during her last sync with the Elysian realm, she planted a seed of doubt into the mind of the real Mobius to make her give up on her life. Basically, this means that she gave the real Mobius depression to the point where she didn't want to live anymore. She did this so she could be the only Mobius left. After the shocking reveal, Mobius deletes the area and leaves, leaving May and Klein behind. As they try their best to find a way out from the collapsing data space, Klein notices that May attracted the attention of a certain individual. May finds out that Kevin returned the Void Archives to Otto. Worried about her friends, May leaves the Elysian realm. While she is gone, Raven enters the realm to investigate some data errors that started appearing after the fight between May and Mobius. An encounter with a peculiar cat leads Raven to a dark place she has never seen before. A mysterious figure reveals herself in the darkness. Raven passes out and the mysterious figure gives her a star-shaped pendant. May returns and starts searching for Raven, but to no avail. To help her, Elysia introduces May to Pardophilis, the 13th member of the Flame Chasers and the owner of Felice's shop. With her help, May manages to find Raven. After May interacts with the pendant left by the mysterious figure, she collapses and finds herself in the dark place described by Raven before. With a gentle and calm voice, the dark figure mentioned by the mercenary approaches May. The Herrscher senses that she is dangerous and realizes that she has the power to control people's actions through her words. Later, May finds out that she was none other than Aponia, the third ranked among the Flame Chasers and the strongest psychic mantis. Embarked on a new journey to reach the deep end, May encounters two new Flame Chasers. The silent boy, Cosma, and the youngest flame chaser, Griseo. Witnessing May's ability to bring change to the realm, Aponia reveals to her that she can see people's fate and that May will die by her hands in 10 days. While trying to escape her fate, May meets the last flame chaser, the eccentric genius VOV. She uncovers the secret behind Aponia's discipline, learns about the Sundown Alley incident where Sakura fought Kalpas for the first time, and the sanatorium in which Aponia helped the infected, while witnessing her past struggles in trying to change fate. To challenge this belief, May provokes Kalpas to a fight, hoping that the masked man will put her in mortal danger before Aponia's prophecy is supposed to happen. The fight goes exactly how the Herrscher of Thunder wanted, and right when she was about to be killed by the bearer of the Signet of Decimation, Aponia appears and saves her. Realizing that her fight with Kalpas didn't achieve much, May slowly comes to terms with the fact that she might not be able to change her fate. But even so, maybe her fate is already determined, but she can at least choose what path she'll take to the end. Armed with unwavering resolve, she wants to find out the truth hidden in the deep end before the prophecy is fulfilled. May attempts to reach the deep end once more, but before arriving to her destination, one last obstacle stands in her way: Aponia. With the help of Griseo's painting and Raven's intervention, May overpowers the bearer of the Signet of Discipline, but the whole fight was nothing more than just an illusion created by Aponia. It turns out that she was only testing May to see if she was worthy to discover the secrets buried deep within the Elysian realm. Despite fate giving her an ultimatum, May decided to make the same decision as her and tread on her own path to the inevitable. After that, Aponia finally opens the path to the depths, and May finds herself again greeted by Elysia, the bearer of the Signet of Ego, who reveals herself to be the 13th Herrscher of the previous era.
Interesting. So, okay, we got Interesting. So good, like, is a called recap or lore there, putting out together. There's some stuff about that video that seemed familiar. I'm not sure if it's just because of, you know, what's been being talked about, or if that was one that I actually watched back in the day, because there is some stuff on this place that I have I'm laughing because I said back in the day. I haven't even been doing these videos for like a year yet. But I meant like at first, like in like an earlier reaction. But there's stuff that I already seen on this, and if you had missed any of those, like my first reaction to that, or like any like the first reaction to like any of the like really popular animations or the concerts or things like Cooking with Valkyries or anything like that, I have recorded a lot of Honkai stuff, and I always gotta throw that in for any sort of new viewers. So if you are a long time viewing of these, I thank you greatly, but sorry if it ever does seem like I'm repeating myself. So yeah. But interesting to learn about the Elysian realm more. And yeah, very, very good video. Now we have the real identity of the 13th Hersher. Elysian realm theory / speculation. Yeah, 13th. There is is this something that hasn't been revealed yet, even, or just didn't get revealed? I forget. I forget if this. I thought there was something that like that was left a mystery. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but
flame chasers we have met so far, none have raised as many eyebrows as Alicia does. Alicia, while seemingly close to everyone, it's obvious that she has certain secrets that she's keeping away. In this video, I will be explaining the reason why I believe Alicia was actually the 13th Hersher and how she went rogue against her former allies. If you want more information on other Hershers, which I recommend you do because I'm pulling a lot of info from that, you can check out my last video where I went over all the Hershers currently known. Otherwise,
I think we watched that.
Okay, because of how mysterious Alicia is, we should lay out what information we have on her first in order to get a good picture of her character. First, many people think, or should I say, wanted to believe Alicia is still alive. Well, she was mentioned to be dead right before the end of the previous era by Kevin. While some could say that Kevin could just believe she's dead while she's actually isn't, but as you will soon see, that's probably not the case. Alicia was someone who was under a lot of suspicion from many people, some of which went as far as calling her a traitor. We saw that from Mobius. Just what could Alicia possibly have done to elicit such a reaction, especially from people like Mobius? So first off, I would just assume that whatever she did that made people consider her a traitor actually resulted in her death, as all the dialogues seem to be pointing that way. From the information we know, she was dead at the last moments of the previous era. That's after the moon battle against the final Hersher. From Kevin's second memory, we know that Alicia survived the battle against the 11th Hersher. This leaves us with 3 time frames where she could have died. The 12th Hersher incident, the unknown 13th, and the final battle on the moon against the final Hersher. I want everyone to remember chapter 12, where we got a glimpse of the previous era 12th Hersher incident. And if you remembered from my last video, that Hersher is Ren, previous era Sakura's little sister. So basically the summary was that Sakura heard her sister was imprisoned by the moth, and while looking into that, she also found out that the moth were using children as test subjects for whatever they're doing. She found this unacceptable and declared herself their enemy, and thus led to her breaking into the base to rescue her sister, where she would perish in her encounter against the 12th Hersher, who was awakened after her sister died. Sakura was the only mantis who rebelled against the rest, or was she? Okay, so think of for the flame chasers and imagine what their reactions would be if they found out their organization were conducting experiments on innocent children. Some of the reactions would range from a necessity to something
if Calpish is like that, but why does he have so much drip? Why does he look cool if he's
Imagine what
that
their
bad?
reactions would be if they found out
came
the
up with
organization
the
were
ideas
conducting
crazy.
experiments on innocent children. Some of the reactions would range from a necessity to something that is unethical. Sakura can't be the only person
Wait,
in
what
necessity
is
to something that is unethical.
but I will only verbally express my concern. My actions today will totally not lead to me getting into a fight with a certain someone in the
Sakura
future.
can't be the only person who disagreed on these measures taken supposedly for the good of humanity. Combine this with the fact that some members in the organization aren't necessarily fond of one another. This just calls into question just how unified the morph is.
I'm sorry when he said it. When he said it, I gotta go back. Countess to anyone. I do not know the Countess game.
Supposedly
like
for the
that.
good of humanity. Combine this with the fact that some members in the organization aren't necessarily fond of one another. This just calls into question just how unified the morph really were during those desperate times.
君のしていることは人類を裏切ることと同じだよ。
人類を裏切る。リンは無実じゃ。あの子は何もしていない。勝手にあの子を危険だと決めつけ監禁するなど許さん。
リンの体内から特殊な崩壊エネルギー反応を検出した。紛れもなく彼女は第12律者だ。
崩壊エネルギー反応が何時何時もわらわも体に崩壊獣の因子が入っておる。しかしわらわたちは人類を守る融合戦士じゃ。リンには症状がない。彼女は力を制御できるのじゃ。人に危害を加えることはない。何時らがあの子の人生を奪うなど許さん。
We can just imagine the post-battle meeting where they would discuss things that have happened. It's highly likely that there are many more people who disagreed on these measures taken, but they either haven't acted on it yet, or they are waiting for that one breaking point where enough is enough. And who can possibly be the best candidate for leading this group of people disgruntled with how things are run? This is where I think Alicia comes in. She was said to be someone who believes in resolving things by talking it out. She would obviously be very critical upon seeing the results that came out from how they treated Ren. I'm saying this because she was also against Kevin unleashing his power against the 11th Herrscher, that it would also result in death of many of his allies. Think about it. Could there be a certain someone who allowed the Sakura incident to happen? Alicia could totally have sympathized with Sakura and thus turn a blind eye on what she's trying to do and allowed the break-in to happen. This would also explain the suspicion that was mentioned in her last memory.
しかし、もしわらわが何かに恐れるのであれば、それは多分
Fear it.
恐怖そのものにじゃろう。
It's JFK.
その意味がよくわからないんだ
Keep
け
her away from
人
convertibles.
類は未知に恐怖を感じる。特に自身の常識とかけ離れたものを目の前にした時にな。あの誰もが戦々恐々とする時代。恐怖が人一人を、多くの人を壊すのはたやすいことじゃった。
Right now we have established that there could have been a rift between members of the Fire Morph, those who want harsh measures against the Honkai and those who demand a less extreme approach. This rift could very likely expand into a full-blown civil war situation, and I believe that what happened to Rin was the breaking point of this. After all the talks broke down, the people who want to see an alternative banded together with Alicia as their leader to prove...
I know I've seen plenty of videos that kind of go over the material or go over the comics or my American way. I call it the manga of the Honkai stuff. I have been recommended in some comments to check them out. I think I might do that. Like that may be like some videos in the future looking at like the manga of Honkai. I guess some of them look like scenes from them or panels that look kind of crazy. And yeah, I wouldn't mind like getting at that full like story kind of thing. Maybe.
Prove their point in this pivotal moment, Alicia would have become the next Herrscher and would attempt to break free from the Honkai. It's hard to know whether she would succeed or not given the chance to do so, but what we do know is that her traitor accusation can very well have come from this act. Basically some form of collusion with the Honkai. As we know, she's mentioned as dead by Kevin right before he went into the cryopods. That was after his failure against the final Herrscher. Kevin was probably the person who put down Alicia when she became a Herrscher. There's this one line from Kevin about his stance on Herrschers.
律者が人類のために戦えるなら、人類は人類の手によって滅びることもあり得るって、あなたが教えてくれたんだもの。
違う。律者は人類のために戦うことはない。 彼女はそうだったし、君も同じだ。
When initially reading this line, I thought he was talking about Mei and Kiana. But then I realized that this Kevin is a simulation from his previous memories that very likely did not contain his current era experience. So there's no way this Kevin knew about Kiana. This leaves only Alicia as the only person that this line could be referring to. Why? Because Kevin had also feel shaded Alicia for making certain decisions that ruined his era. And what reason could there be to explain Kevin's zero tolerance stance on Hershey's? I think so far this theory have checked out on all the informations we know about Alicia. But by this being a theory, it could very well be wrong. Not even accounting for the mistakes I might have made in writing this. So I want to know what your
I'm
thoughts
assuming
are.
because it's in this playlist of labeled like animation and lore. I'm assuming there's at least some sort of merit to this theory, if it's not like completely correct. So yeah, that is crazy. I mean, maybe there are some things that aren't like the most right. I don't know. This was like an 8-minute video, but
theory. Could this be valid? Or do you
I
know
don't
about
know.
any
It might
information
be
that I
valid.
have not mentioned in this video that you think would have changed certain aspects of this theory? Let me know in the comments. By the way, this video does not factor in any details given from the recently released Elysian Realm Chapter 2 on the Chinese server, because I do not have access to it. But if you are someone who has access to those informations and believe that what you have will reinforce or disprove this theory in any way, then I would appreciate it if you share those things with me down below. That's all I have for today. Thanks for watching to the end and have a nice day.
thank you, Potato Almanac. Correct? Yeah. Correct.
The previous era
What we
was
got?
the age.
We got the event that changed Kevin forever. Fire Moth series. Is this Potato Almanac again? It is. Okay.
The previous era was the age that lost to the Honkai but has managed to salvage the situation to have a go at it again in the new current era. This is because the final Herrscher, who despite putting the final nail in the coffin for the previous era, fails to consider the tried and true tactic in the face of annihilation, hiding, which has allowed the survivors to rebuild their civilization at a later date. These aren't your run-of-the-mill fallout shelters, as they also have plans for rebuilding and taking the fight to the Honkai again. They employed a select group of people called pioneers to see these plans through. And out of all these people is Kevin, who is undoubtedly the most important person in this group because he just doesn't know when to stop. Today's episode is dedicated to the backstory of Kevin Kaslana, the things he's gone through, from his greatest victories to his worst failures that transform him from a happy young man to a war veteran stricken with PTSD. This video is part of a series where I compile important events in the previous era into an easily digestible bits, so you have an easier time getting into it. Last time, we talked about how Kevin joined Morph as a soldier to follow Mei and has since been performing his task quite well, which has made him tougher. But there would be a great reckoning in the form of the Herrscher of Fire, which is a big event not only to Kevin but also to the overall picture. To better understand why this event is so important, we need to look at who the Herrscher was. Himiko used to lead a squad in Morph. In one of her journeys, she saved a young girl by the name of Hua, at this point very young. It was during a Honkai disaster in Sapphire. You may have heard about it during Fuhua main story chapters. Himiko took her in as her mentor, putting her under her command. She would take care of her until one day, in a concert in Kangaroo Land hosted by the popular idol Eden, Himiko turned into the Herrscher of Fire. The initial eruption took out many in the audience, even her squad mates who were unfortunate enough to be nearby when it happened. Hua was the only lucky one in the squad to have survived. Right after, Morph was quick to respond, but was
like a
having
Travis
difficulty
Scott
because the
concert.
Herrscher is OP AF. So to solve the problem of not having enough violence, Mei decided to combine a person's gene with one from a Honkai beast, becoming what we call Mantis. The result of this operation depends on which specific beast was combined with the person, which also need to be suitable in the first place. Kevin was the first to volunteer and went through it successfully, gaining ice power from the beast Povati, and now would have what it takes to slam the Herrscher into the ground, and he would go do just that. This marks an important point in Kevin's life, not just because he became the strongest guy in Morph, but because in the early days of the project, those who came out of it would have some kind of side effect that is the result of the beast genes they were incorporated with. For Kevin, it's his body temperature going sub-zero, which forces him to social distance in order to not send anyone into hypothermia, including Mei. That last part is very important, because Kevin would find himself dedicating more and more to fighting the Honkai, which would leave him emotionally isolated from others. This event is the turning point for the previous era with far-reaching consequences. The invention of Mantis would dictate how Morph would go fight their future battles, because now Morph can reliably beat back the Hershers with their creep of the crop Mantis, which are sometimes augmented with divine keys. For Kevin, his trusty divine key Shamash can only be used by himself, because the Shamash flames is so powerful that only Kevin heat resistance can withstand it. He would mostly be responsible for killing every Hershey that came after, apart from when he failed against the last one. This event also pushed people like Eden, who was scarred by the eruption, into joining the fight. Hua, who got a taste of what's to come, losing people that she cared about, especially her dear mentor, who suddenly tried to kill her. She would be ostracized due to being the only survivor from her former squad, led by Himiko. And that is it for the story of the Hershey of Fire. Join me next time as I talk about Sue and his relationship with Kevin as his best friend. Thanks for watching.
Interesting, thank you! Potato Almanac.
This is a medical record photo that Sue keeps around, detailing his patients when he used to work as a doctor. In these records, there's also a personal letter from Dr. May that Sue prayed he would never have to follow. These items are what define Sue, the Flame Chaser considered to be Kevin's best friend. He has fought many battles alongside Kevin and has continued to support him all the way through to the new current era. He used to observe the multiverse for ways to defeat the Honkai, until he got into a big fight with Kevin that ended up in Kevin getting stuck in the Sea of Quanta, where he would eventually escape by tricking a bunch of young girls along with an unkillable Hersher. Today's episode is about Sue's relationship with Kevin, which has got to do with who Sue fundamentally is as a person, and how this will push him into a breaking point with Kevin.
Interesting, okay.
Right here I have the second key manga.
So, okay, so that was when the little text thing that was, we're referring to this, so Sue and Kevin fought, and then when he pushed into Sea Aquan. I remember the Sea Aquan stuff with Bronya and Seely, and I think that was also Welt in there. So that was interesting.
And we would be able to read about Sue's backstory. The interesting thing here is that it's shown in the context of Durandal going through a trial by role-playing through Sue's life experience, where she would generally make the same decisions until towards the end, but we'll get to that. So don't panic when you see familiar faces that ain't supposed to be there. So Sue and Kevin has known each other prior to joining Morph, but has since lost contact with each other ever since the Honkai disaster hit the city where Kevin was at the time, as I already went through in the overview. Ever since, Sue has worked as a doctor treating patients with the Honkai infection, at least that's what it initially implies. Because the thing with the previous era is that the general public is unaware of the real magnitude of the Honkai, in a world where Congress coaxed anti-entropy into justifying their reasons for housing to their knowledge a potentially dangerous being. Even a random citizen from Ark City can easily identify that Kiana is a Hersher, whereas someone back from the previous era not only doesn't know such a thing even exists, any information they receive were often downplayed or withheld outright by Morph, the sole organization in charge of dealing with this threat, and one who seemed to have complete control over the flow of information going to the public. This may be the reason why someone outside Morph like Sue couldn't come up with a cure for the disease despite his best efforts, but whatever the reason might be, this failure to save his patients would eat away at him. The medical record photo that Sue keeps around is to remind him of the people that he failed to save. He even tried joining Morph to help find a cure, but was initially rejected. He eventually joined after going through his own trial. It's also here that he saw what Kevin was up to all these years. What we learned from these events is that
I gotta read that one. That looks funny.
He saw what Kevin was up to all these.
We become Hersher before the final Hersher.
What we learned from these events is that it reinforces the idea of the weight Sue carries with him. The patients he failed to save, his director along with the victims whose body was used to create the cure for when he himself caught the disease. After avoiding death, Sue joined Morph and shortly became a Mantis just in time for many exciting events, such as being bait for the 8th Hershers so the Hersher disposal can do their damn job, or maybe stopping your friendly neighborhood researcher from blowing up her own lab. There's this one time Mobius tried to fully take over the Honkai beast inside herself, but then got Uno reversed and got herself taken over by the beast instinct, becoming what's called the First Institute incident.
What the hell?
Sue had to do a dive bomb maneuver similar to that scene from Princess Connect where Hasune had to rescue Shiori through her subconscious mind or something. He could do this because his mantis surgery allowed him to use mental acrobatics taken from a peacock Honkai beast, which he could turn himself into if the situation calls for it. Some of its most notable powers are the Fawn's enchantment from Minecraft. A couple of people was also present like Hua, who walks right in only to get friendly fired by Sue, and Sakura, who basically sneezed on Mobius at the end to defeat her because Sue did most of the heavy lifting already. Anyway, this is getting off topic, so back to Sue. His decision making is strictly about saving lives rather than the more sacrificial style of Kevin. This is especially true in the latter half of the previous era, when plans for the new era were being drawn up because they realized that they may not win. Sue was initially assigned Project Stigma, which understandably upsetted him, but Kevin got his back and takes Stigma for himself. Sue was transferred to Valuka, which is using the second divine key to observe the multiverse for ways to defeat the Honkai, as I mentioned at the start. Sue's plan was to finish Valuka before Kevin goes sacrificing people for Stigma, but as anyone that read the second key manga can tell you, that didn't go quite as planned. Kevin is getting impatient, but remember that personal letter from May that Sue keeps around? What the letter basically said is to have Sue stop Kevin from doing anything crazy. And stop him, he did. You see, during his time in the second divine key, Sue foresaw his possibility of fighting Kevin and dying. So that's probably why he came up with the trap him in the Sea of Quanta plan. Sue planned to go down along with Kevin, but Kevin, in a rare act of compassion, stopped his attack midway and yeeted Sue back into the real world, where he would continue to observe more possibilities. Whether or not he made the right choice that day will be validated when he met Durandal, where in her illusion, she showed that she and Rita are best friends, am I right? Anyway, Sue passed the important information he have to Otto, which would play into kickstarting the Colostan arc we saw in recent memory. After a long life, Sue peacefully passed away. Just kidding. After he probably died, he got transported into a mysterious plane with a being that claims to have authority over the Honkai itself. What this thing even is a question that I at the moment cannot answer. So if you have any ideas, feel free to leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching today's video. The next episode will be about Eden, who will be coming next update. So stay tuned.
Oh, okay, interesting. Is this, okay, so this one is a, next one here is a concept trailer into the deep. I believe I saw, yeah, this is one that I have peeped and is a actual trailer from the Honkai episode, or the channel. So yeah.
空と雲青と白
Oh, she's still on
ま
page.
だ描いてない部分はあなたの好きな色あなたの色で描きたいの
My color, use red. Oh, this is just
ヒ
going
ーロ
over
ーには
the
ヒーローの生き方
flame chasers.
凡人には凡人の生き方がある他人のように生きるのは、別にダメってわけじゃないけど本当に必要なの？
大地はウロを求めたが俺たちは出発前の祈祷を捧げることしかできなかった。動き出せ。英傑の名を背負ったのはそれを終わらせるためなのだから。
現実は絶対じゃないし唯一でもない。結局
If I remember correctly, she
現
does
実は
something.
精密に動作してる機械に過ぎない。
She kind of betrays the flame chasers.
私たちの手で徹底的に解析し、そして
She does definitely something.
ただ一つの奇跡を作り出そう。
If she did already. Crisio.
ほら、
Oh, that's her.
あなたの色、もう覚えたよ。行きたい場所があるの？大丈夫。行っていいよ。
私が哀愁の城に入り、私が永劫の苦に落ちる。
Aponia.
迷える旅人よ、振り向きなさい。まだ私たちに絡みつく糸を断ち切りたくないから。
Yeah, Aponia. Okay, it's not all the flame chasers, but some of them. Interesting.
Welcome, lost traveler. Please don't be afraid. Everything is going to be alright.
Okay.
I'm here
I'll
to
trust.
offer you salvation. I'm here to... I'm here to... You know what?
You
Screw
alright?
it. Welcome back, beautiful people. Initially
We're
present...
back with Mulan. We got who is Aponia. So we got an Aponia video, very interesting. If memory serves me correctly, I think she had a cool boss fight. I think when I watched the boss fights, was another thing I checked out previously. I think hers was good. I don't know if that was something. I keep remembering that. I think hers was pretty cool. And yeah, that was I do remember that trailer the last time. That was a cool one. So yeah, let's learn more.
Presented as a villain, Aponia is one of the most misunderstood flame chasers. After learning more about her, it quickly became obvious that she's not evil. In fact, she might be one of the most good-hearted among the flame chasers.
Among Us!
But like a bad comedy, she is the personification of the saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." This is the story of the most misunderstood flame chaser, Aponia. The easiest way to understand the character is to look at what is the inspiration behind it. In Aponia's case, we have multiple elements that we can take a look at. First, her nun outfit. Nuns are always associated with kindness, helping the people in need. Wait, these are the wrong nuns. Give me a second. Good. These are the right ones. Sorry about that. As I said, nuns are women who vow to dedicate their lives to religious service. In Aponia's case, her appearance is meant to suggest her commitment and dedication to helping others. Another thing we can take a look at is the name of her battlesuit, Disciplinary Perdition. Perdition means a state of eternal damnation, or hell, reflecting Aponia's endless struggle to change fate, but ultimately failing. The concept of hell is more than a symbol of her inner struggles and guilt. There are many types of hell in different cultures and religions, but the one I found the most interesting concerning her character is Gehenna, the abode of the damned in the afterlife in Jewish and Christian eschatology. It is named after the valley of Hinnom, a place where children were sacrificed by burning as offerings to pagan gods. Why is this relevant to Aponia? You'll find out later. And of course we need to talk about the Honkai beast that Aponia fused with. In the game it is referred as Midoro. But since we know that Honkai beasts are mainly named after Hindu gods, we can track that name back to Mitra, a god whose meaning and interpretation changed through the history of Hinduism. The first interpretation is the guardian of truth and order, while the second one is that of a deity of friendship who abhors all violence. This is very reflective of how Aponia acts. She never engages in any form of violence, not even against the Honkai, even though she is capable of it. In her fight with Mei, Aponia mentions that she would never truly hurt her, though, interestingly, there are instances in which Aponia showed that she's willing to get her hands dirty if needed, like when she told Mei that she will kill her if Mei will ever take advantage of Griseo. Aponia is a psychic mantis. Psychic mantises are described as non-combatants, though there are exceptions, whose powers revolve around the human mind. They often possess abilities that are utility-based, like telekinesis, clairvoyance, mind control, and so on. Aponia is special in this regard because she had her powers even before becoming a mantis. The surgery only enhanced her already existing powers. The two primary powers she displays in the game are her discipline and the ability to see people's fate. Now, as tempting as it sounds, trust me, you don't want to be disciplined by Aponia. Her discipline is a form of auto-suggestion on crack rather than simple mind control. It's a very mysterious power that caught the eyes of the moth. Dr. May even asked Aponia to put a discipline on her in order to research it. What she discovered was that discipline, besides being a form of suggestion that binds the bearer to comply with whatever Aponia tells them, can also enhance bodily functions and help people heal and recover faster. There have been many studies and experiments about how our health and body functionality is closely tied to our state of mind. Aponia's powers can stimulate the human mind to its absolute limits, affecting how the body works in the process. Another byproduct of the research on Aponia's discipline is Swara, a procedure that enhances the brain signals of a person in order to strengthen the body and mind. Aponia implies that her discipline has some regulator that prevents the human body from harming itself. Swara, on the other hand, was developed without any of these regulators and it's much more dangerous. That's the reason why many who underwent the experiment went mad or died. Hua was the only survivor. Aponia can also see people's fate. She describes this ability as seeing a set of strings going in a certain pattern. She can interpret and discern different events in someone's life, and she says that that is usually the easiest thing to interpret. It's important to know that besides her discipline and clairvoyance, she has many more powers like reading minds, levitating, and more.
Dang,
to understand how Aponia uses her powers, we need to understand her past. Remember that I mentioned Gehenna and children being sacrificed by burning? Well, here's how that's relevant to Aponia. We don't know much about her past before joining the Moth, but one place has an important role in her story.
I don't know why I thought he was about to say the Mafia.
Sundown Alley. During the restless attack of the Honkai, Aponia worked at a sanatorium in Sundown Alley. There, she brought in and helped children infected by the Honkai. But unfortunately, her good intentions led to tragedy. Because of the large number of infected, it was a given that the sanatorium was a ticking time bomb, and not much time passed before an outbreak occurred. Even the moths were involved. As things escalated into chaos, Sakura fought with Kalpas for the first time during that incident, making things even worse in that situation. Kalpas was also in Aponia's care at that time. In the end, everything was destroyed in flames and all the children in Aponia's care died that day. Sundown Alley literally turned into a hell that day and Aponia lost everything in that tragedy. The guilt scarred her deeply and she felt responsible for what happened. Of course, the moths took advantage of the situation and brought Aponia in. Besides their interest in her powers, they found her highly suspicious. After interrogating her, they sent Aponia to undergo the metamorph surgery, hoping that she will survive and they will be able to control her. Unfortunately for them, Aponia was never confined by the moths. In fact, she caused more trouble for them in the end. Before going any further, please subscribe to the channel and please give the video a thumbs up if you like the content and want to see more videos. After joining the Moth, Aponia locked herself in the Deep End, a high-security prison where she continued to use her discipline to ease the people's pain. She remained there until Kevin brought her out after the tragedy of binding. The guilt of what happened in Sundown Alley was weighing on her, and Aponia isolated herself to atone for her sins. There, she started using her discipline even more. In her eyes, even if she was feared and hated because of that, the restraints brought by her discipline were necessary. She saw freedom as something that leads humanity to evil. She chose to restrain the people to keep them stable. But even after applying the discipline, human nature still seeped out and led to evil time and time again. The best example of this is Rin's death in the previous era. Rin was killed by a group of moth soldiers that fear her because she was the host of the 12th Herrscher. Even if she never displayed any signs of malice, the idea of a Herrscher lurking behind the walls of the moth brought fear and despair. Later, it was revealed that those people were under the influence of Aponia's discipline. She put a simple discipline on them: never give up the fight against the Honkai. But this also fueled their negative emotion towards the Honkai to the point where they killed Rin even though she didn't do anything wrong at that point. This was one of the many times that Aponia's good intentions led to tragedy.
That is still crazy. I learned about that the first time while watching this videos in this playlist a while back. Like Sakura's sister Rin died like that, and like that is crazy. But now I know that Aponia is kind of tied to that. She didn't like make him kill him like directly. Like she didn't make like kill Rin, but like her like influence or whatever word he just used kind of inadvertently helped. That's crazy. And yeah, the Sundown Alley thing, that's I think a first. And dang, that's crazy. And seeing her like walk in the rain too, all depressed, that's kind of sad.
If what she did could be seen as wrong, it didn't matter to her. Her actions were just a means to an end. And even if she had to do some things that were seen as evil, if the end result could help people, she would not hesitate to do it. When the Flame Chasers decided to create the Elysian Realm, they used Aponia and Sue's psychic powers to construct the data space. In a discussion between Sue and Aponia, we found out that Sue fell unconscious during the process and Aponia completed the Elysian Realm by herself. This is relevant because her fate was never explained. We know that she was one of the few Flame Chasers that lived to the end. She never engaged the final Herrscher on the moon and chose to stay behind and use her powers to ease the suffering of the people, even going as far as making them forget their regrets and painful memories. But what happened after that? Well, it is heavily implied that Aponia fused with the Elysian Realm itself. We know the fates of many Flame Chasers, but her end was never mentioned. Instead, and please note that this is more of a theory based on breadcrumbs that we got from the Elysian Realm, she fused her consciousness with the realm to remember her. Her, in this case, refers to Elysia. This could mean that the Aponia we see in the realm, even if she doesn't have a physical body anymore, could be the consciousness of the real Aponia. Again, this is not something confirmed, but highly suggested. Honkai likes to do this thing where it only gives you some pieces of the puzzle and lets you put the other pieces together by yourself. But why Elysia? At the end of chapter 3 of Elysia...
cool way to do it sometimes. Get like the community talking and theorizing, and that's what makes games and stuff is like community stuff, which is why I know probably a reason why Honkai is very successful.
In Realm, we found that Elysia was the 13th Herrscher of the previous era, and that the secret hidden by Aponia was the Elysian Everlasting, a memory space based on Elysia's life. Aponia's sole reason for merging with the Elysian Realm was to preserve that place. Elysia meant a lot to her. She was a special soul that treated everyone with kindness and sincerity. She was also the first to accept and understand Aponia, saying that everything she did was out of goodness. Aponia says that she was unable to see Elysia's fate. Was it because she was a Hersher, or maybe she wasn't even human to begin with? At some point, Elysia decided to become the greatest evil to unite the remaining Flame Chasers and planned to die in the process. Similarly to how May acted during the fake prophecy Aponia told her in chapter 3, Elysia took her fate into her own hands and chose how she will live until her final moments. A common theme throughout the Honkai series is the struggle of humanity against fate, and both Elysia's and May's characters showcase this struggle very well. After seeing May making the same decision, Aponia finds her worthy to know the truth about Elysia and Elysium Everlasting. Aponia, like many of the Flame Chasers, is a tragic character. In chapter 29, Eden mentions that Aponia is a giver, referring to the fact that through her discipline, she gives hope and a path forward to the masses.
Her eyes in every shot looks
all
like
the Flame Chasers are
dead.
flawed, but they were the only ones who appeared at that time. Aponia's actions can be seen as both good and evil, right and wrong, helpful or extreme, but in her eyes, they were necessary. She was burdened by guilt, the pain of loss, and suffering from seeing the fate of the people around her and being unable to do anything to change it. She did her best in her own way until the end. Even if it led to even more suffering, she never gave up on helping others around her. She is a gentle and kind soul that would take upon the suffering of the masses because, in her opinion, there was no one other than her that could do that. A splendid character who deserves more recognition and appreciation for her character and not just character design.
But yeah, this is the first time I'm really wait, Fate fan reacts to 3.0. Let's see. Is HSR, that's Honkai Star Rail. Are they doing a collab with Fate? That's kind of cool. But yeah, as someone who you know, I didn't really focus too much on Aponia till now. Like, I knew of her, but until now I didn't really know her story. And yeah, it's very, very another very tragic character. I also didn't kind of realize, I guess the Flame Chasers are kind of evil, maybe, or like, or kind of sort of evil. They're in that like gray realm kind of thing. Again, maybe it depends, but I know we just went over Aponia. It's not really like not really a good or bad thing. It could be seen as both, but yeah, I mean, the Sun Valley thing with all the kids, like, that's crazy. And like, just it's knowing that story, like seeing like the shots of her just like walking in the rain or just looking kind of like, or out of it, or dead, depressed. Like, it's like, it kind of like, wow, that's unfortunate, to say the least. That is undermining it to put words like that, but that is crazy. I'm definitely glad to learn more about Aponia. I do kind of like the nun drip she's got going on, the nun style. It makes a cool design, and I'm not just saying that because Reasons have kind of joked about the end. Yeah, it does look. I do like her design. And yeah, she's learn more about a more appreciative member of the 13 Flame Chasers. Alright, so looking at the time, I think we have time for one more video, and this one does interest me. The truth about Calpis. Calpis design alone, I believe, is my favorite favorite member of the Flame Chasers. And look at this. This is 100 of the playlist. We have watched 100 videos in this playlist already, so Nice, we're in triple digits, but like I said, this kind of keeps getting updated. In fact, when I even like had this tab open, it had I think it's a 207 or something. So I don't know when we're gonna be done, but we're still coming along. We still got 100 in, so that is cool. That is cool. So yeah, let's end on a Calpis video.
Calpas, he's quite angry, to say the least. He was the one who single-handedly destroyed the Ice Herrscher. By the way, he was able to do this before Mantis was invented, so the best weapon around wasn't a superhuman with Honkai genes, but a gun. And even after Mantis became a thing, he didn't become obsolete as he could still hold his ground against the Mantis. But how could this be? How can a normal person be this strong? Calpas, from his origins down to the workings of his inner mind, is very much shrouded in mystery. There's a reason we have the Calpas 101 handbook written by your friendly neighborhood pink pointy ears. He certainly doesn't seem approachable or, dare I say, profound, at least on the surface level. A great tactic you can use is by making yourself look slightly crazy, and you can be sure to get his attention. Take it from that one guy Emil who tried to shank him with a puny knife that Calpas still keeps around. Stockholm Syndrome is kinda cool, as Calpas appoints Emil to be his adjutant, where he would let this homicidal person repeatedly attempt to shorten his lifespan for the funsies. We can know quite a lot about Calpas from Sakura.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with Honkai, but you see that one meme he used about the guy like stabbing his, like they were testing out a like a stab-proof vest. I would never be a guinea pig for that ever, bruh. Ever, because you don't know what like is gonna. Like, that is crazy. Like that, he was really stabbing it too. Like, he was getting some anger out. Like, that is crazy.
She has quite a camaraderie with him. The first time she met him was in a mission at Sundown Alley. I'm sure you can remember this place as where Aponia used to run a sanatorium for various Honkai infected individuals. Sakura went full Left 4 Dead on the local inhabitants of this place. What she didn't know at the time was that Calpas saw what was going on and is quite angry. I'm not quite sure why he's there. Like, could you imagine Calpas with kids? Anyway, a fight quickly broke out and Sakura probably won because she brought both Calpas and Aponia back to base right after for questioning. Calpas was swiftly thrown into containment in the deep end for obvious reasons. He only got out of there out of Alicia's insistence because Morph has this thing called Cocoon, which is basically their hit squad. It was Alicia that got him into it, which would be where he would develop his camaraderie with Sakura.
Kick names, take ass.
Yeah, that's right.
Another person that Calpas has quite an attitude towards is Aponia. It's safe to say that he hates her. It most likely reached its peak when he found out that she was in part responsible for the killing of Rin, which also ended up in Sakura dying on scene. You can learn about it in details from my video on Aponia here. So, random person can solo a Herrscher when that usually takes anything from a whole platoon to an entire army group. What then would the Morph do? They decided to investigate the crap out of this person. And there's no one more interested in these stuffs other than Mobius. She often takes Calpas to a friendly duel with random mantises, something that will become routine for Calpas. For reference, his sim fought Aponia's sim for like 14,500 times. So he really enjoys these duels. To give you an idea of how dangerous he is, just the shockwave from his fighting can kill bystanders. Destruction is his specialty. Do you know why we only have a few versions of the 10th Divine Key when there are supposed to be like 100 of these things? You might think it probably got lost or somehow haven't been found yet, but really it's because Calpas deadass broke them all in the fit to find the one that Emil turned into after he became out of the 10th. Still, before the study conducted, Mobius could not for her life figure out what made this man so powerful. She sent Sakura to investigate his hometown, but what turned up was a charred hellscape with some kind of sacrificial altar. But that doesn't matter because she still found ways to make Calpas stronger by utilizing sci-fi magic to turn him into a mantis. It wasn't quite as simple as the others for some unknown reasons, but she managed to make him one, with planned obsolescence I may add, because if the whole thing gonna come crashing down before the individual components fail, you might as well not make the components last that long, you know what I mean? Here's a file that directly mentions that Mobius wants to study what makes up Kelpass's body, like literally dissect him or something, because she reminds him to give her his unique heart. If you look at the appearance of Kelpass' remembrance vessel, we could kinda infer about this. For example, this crack in this heart-looking thing, which could be reminding us that he is unstable, probably in reference to his mantis surgery, and his heart, which could be what gave him all his power. Like more than normal humans, because it's what you know what I mean. And this is where some might catch on to something about Kelpass. You know how in Elysian Realm, Grisio files is the most unique because hers are not texts but paintings. Here's the one that she painted for Kelpass. When you consider what Grisio paints is a display that is illustrative of the story of the person she shows, it becomes apparent that this shooting star could be depicting how Kelpass got to his hometown, because it's where he first appeared on this planet. Notice the ambiguity. This is also considering that time when he said that his family was far away when asked about it. It's entirely possible he meant his family lives like a 4 hours drive away or in another continent on the other side of the world, but he could also have meant it in a galactic scale. Yes, I am suggesting that Kelpass is probably not from Earth, and I'm writing this before the next story update, so I'll leave this as it is.
Interesting.
Okay, this next part wasn't supposed to exist, but it was a lazy fuck, and the recent story update has dropped a few truth bombs, so here we are. Before chapter 30, what I've said about Kelpass so far would have been a rising suspicion, but with Kelpass taking a trip down memory lane with something, it has neatly packed everything about Kelpass for us to enjoy with basically no ambiguity. So here's what we learned. That painting Grisio did for Kelpass was a literal depiction of when he crashed down from the sky, an alien essentially, where he would help a random village he crashed into fight off a Honkai invasion. The villagers worshipped him as their god, which they did by tying him to a pillar and extracting his blood, because they thought his blood was divine cure for Honkai.
What? Oh.
You gotta understand that people outside Morph may not know or fully understand how Honkai works. Anyway, Kelpass on his own volition endured that for until the Honkai came back for round 2 and killed everyone in the village except for Kelpass. This is the most common theme in his story. He then went on and got a job at Aponia's sanatorium where he would actually have a good time with the people there, until Sakura came by and yeah. So Kelpass charging at Sakura at that time was entirely guided by his anger for the people he cared for. We could also assume that the stuffed animals he was rumored to keep around was to remind him of those kids he used to hang out with. After being taken into Morph, he would stay in it, even though he despises everything it does. The reason is because at the end of the day, Kelpass is just a big tsundere that acts all tough, cold, and crazy towards anyone. Yet deep down he never really hated anyone, as he hated himself more for always being the last man standing who failed to protect anyone he cared about. A person defined by grave survival guilt that only really wants a place to call home. This is not me reading between the lines, as this was literally spoon-fed to us in this particular sequence. With all those loose ends tied up, I'm fully expecting Kelpass to experience some kind of significant emotional event really soon. Now for the last part of the video, did Kelpass live? No. As for how that came to be, there are a few possibilities. Some say that he got eaten by Cosma, though I do wonder, because if my English isn't failing me, his Sim's response to this being brought up was basically he learned it the hard way, that Cosma could only eat Honkai beasts. So if he had died by getting eaten in any way, shape or form, I don't think he would have had the knowledge to tell us about it in the first place. An alternative that is basically the go-to for how Flame Chasers die is that he died on the moon fighting the final Herrscher. I could not find anything specifically confirming how he died, but the fact that he did is still true. This is where I'm supposed to end by talking about what his story represents or what he stood for, but overall his story is full of suffering with not much in the way of an idea or big morals behind. What I'm saying is, his story didn't end in a satisfying conclusion, and it's just an unfortunate story. It's a story of the few who were caught up in the bigger fight. Some found meaning in what they do and may continue to do so till they stop reading, but some have lost or never had one in the first place, only letting themselves go by in the flow. And that would be how most of their story end, at least for their real selves. Because in the Elysian Realm, their story is still ongoing as their Sims battled for their very survival in this new Honkai story chapter. Let's see how long Kelpass will last. Thank you for watching.
Interesting. Okay, so learning more. I learned about Kelpass. Okay. Man, yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to these characters, especially like the Elysian Realm ones that I just wasn't aware of till now. Very nice to learn. We got Aponia, Calpus and the Sakura, seeing how their like stories all kind of intertwine and what happened with that. And Sue and Kevin, they're kind of like they're like friendship and a little bit of a beef. There was a fight at least. It definitely a lot of tragedy with Aponia. Even a lot with Calpus too. Even his fire mode looks really cool. Rip to that one Sun Valley, orphanage. I don't know if it was an orphanage, but something like that. Like those kids that died. Like, dang. That was kind of insane to learn about. But yeah, the Flame Chasers do like really cool like stories, designs, and they're really cool pieces to the Honkai lore and universe. I'm definitely glad to learn more about that. And yeah, this was a really good watch today. Really good watches. I'm very excited for more. For now, though, it does appear I am out of time, and we are 100 episodes. We are 100 videos into the playlist, with about like 100 more to go. By the time it's all said and done, who knows? So yeah, still gonna be on this for a good while. So definitely a lot more to learn. I'm excited for more. Excited for more Elysian Realm stuff, more, whatever else is to come in the Honkai story. Thank you, though, guys, so much for watching. If you did, also big shout out to Potato Almanac and Homu Labs in this one, because definitely we kept like switching off between their videos. Phenomenal videos, phenomenal lore videos, some phenomenal like just really good. Shout out to them for making these, putting this information together, putting it through like the lore bits, really cool, really solid. Very sick. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like or dislike, subscribe or don't subscribe. No, it's always up to you. I'll see you guys in the next video you watch with me. Stay tuned for more Honkai lore and trailer reactions in the future. Good boy.